What's going on, everyone? My name is the Catalyst. Happy Wednesday morning. Thank you for tuning in to the channel. As always, hope you all are having a wonderful day. So yesterday, DICE released a huge update for Battlefield 1, and it included the remaining two Turning Tides maps, Helical Blight and Zebrug, Zebruggy. I don't know. I think I went through every single pronunciation possible for that, and I probably still got it wrong. But those two maps came out, and I enjoyed my time on them. I think they are gorgeous and very innovative maps, and I look forward to playing them more in the future. But that's not really the biggest thing in the patch, and I don't think that the new maps are what most of the community is wanting to know about. The long-awaited Time to Kill patch went live in this update, and after a long time, long teased fill wait, and it has changed the game quite a bit, and I think it's for the better, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Mostly people just want to know point blank what this patch has done to the weapons and which ones are good now, which ones are not. And that's what I'm going to do for you all very briefly in this video. There's no real need to go in depth on the changes because most of you have probably heard about it already. But if you are looking for a bit more of the specifics, the patch notes will be in the description. I've played about 5 hours since the update on the 30th of January, so although in the grand scheme of things, that's not a ton of time, especially for me, it has been enough time for me to toy with nearly all the weapons in the game and garner some opinions on them, which this is all opinion based, by the way. There may be a weapon that I do not enjoy anymore that you may still like quite a lot, and that's perfectly okay. But I will say that I play this game nearly every day and at an extremely high level of play. So I spend a lot of time with a lot of these weapons, and I've been able to pick up kind of which ones have regressed and which ones have increased in popularity. So in the background is a game of Argon where I'm the lone defender against the rest of my platoon, so I hope you enjoyed that. It was a fun game for me to play. And without any more stalling and BS intro stuff, let's get into it. So to get this out of the way first, snipers in the scout class in general have not been touched at all. Like, DICE hasn't even dusted with a new like a swifter sweeper over that class. So if you are concerned about what DICE did to the sniper rifles, you can relax. Nothing has been done to the rifles. I'm assuming most people knew this, but just in case, I'm gonna throw this out there just because we are going to go class by class, and there's no need to cover the scout class, as I've just said. So we will move on to probably what most people are intrigued about, which is the support class. Now, it was reported that LMGs were going to get a major buff with this TTK patch, and that's very true, but DICE has done a great job at balancing the class with this patch, because I think people were very afraid that LMGs were going to be able to hang with SMGs at medium range when it came to a situation where two players would see each other at the exact same time, and that's really not the case. DICE has severely nerfed the ADS time for LMGs now, so LMGs are at a severe disadvantage in the run and gun game, where before LMGs, although a tad weaker, could ADS at about the same speed, and a skilled player can easily beat out any other class at medium to long range. The strengths of the support class now come from bipoding and pre-aiming choke points, which is ideally what the support class is supposed to do. And if there is anything that you can say about this patch, it's that DICE has really succeeded in molding the weapons in each class to perform like they ideally should have for a long time now, and how they should in combat. So as far as weapons are concerned, the BAR Storm is extremely strong still, and although it has a bit more recoil now, I think it is still by far the best medium close range support class weapon, and it's still maybe one of the best weapons in the entire game at this point. So the BAR really didn't take too much of a hit. The telescopic version of the BAR, however, now is probably on my do not touch at all, like, ever list. Like put that thing away. So before the patch, it kind of had like a niche spot, and the recoil was easier to predict, but now the sights are difficult to use, and the recoil is a little bit too strong for it to be effective, so I would stay away from that weapon. The Browning 1917, I'd say, is now very strong, specifically the telescopic version. The Madsen LMG is actually quite good now as well, and that weapon of choice is for those of you who don't quite want to give up that run and gun game with a support class. The ADS time on the Madsen is much more manageable than the other weapons in the class now, and I would give it a try. The Parabellum caught a pretty decent sized nerf with this patch, but it can still be very effective when bipoded. I think most of the community is going to have to kind of relearn this weapon, because at least the way that I used it is I was able to run around and spray people down because I was able to control the recoil, as crazy as that sounds. But I think the community is just going to have to relearn this kind of as like an MG42 from World War II, where you could just sit up somewhere on a choke point and just like hose people down. But it's definitely not the melting machine that it used to be, and everything else in the class, including the Perino, the Show Shot, the MG15, and the Lewis gun, have more or less stayed the same in my opinion. In terms of effectiveness, of course, all of them getting some ADS nerfs, but it really didn't affect their performance all that much. Moving on to the meta class. The meta class, I believe now, is the strongest class in the game, hands down. It's really good. And the weapons in the meta class have received a general accuracy buff, and really is a class that hasn't had too much of a shakeup in their weapons list in terms of effectiveness, I would say, if that makes sense. But every weapon is just genuinely strong now. The auto-loading extended is now extremely strong with some increased accuracy at medium range. The Mondragon is now your medium long range laser, where it used to be the Sib Splatter, although still very, very good. But by far the biggest change in the meta class is the Farquhar Hill. This weapon might be the best weapon in the entire class now after the patch, specifically the optical variant of the weapon. You've seen me using it in the first half of this gameplay. It's on screen now. It now has the ability to two-shot people at medium range if one of those shots is a headshot, so it is a very dangerous weapon. The 1907 Sweeper, also, like the auto-loading extended, has done well with that accuracy buff and can perform better at medium range. The RSC, still hot garbage. The Sobergatti is a bit better, but still hot garbage in my opinion. It just doesn't do anything better than any other weapon that you can use in the game, especially after this patch. The Fedorov, I personally feel, has actually gotten a bit worse than before, but only by a little bit. And finally, the Setzlatter, the 1916, another extremely dangerous two-shot potential weapon, but I think the Farquhar is better than the Setzlatter 1916 because of the greater rate of fire. I mean, I could save us all a lot of time here by just saying that every weapon in the medic class besides the Sobergatti and the RSC are viable to run in competitive or public matches. But the Farquhar and the auto-loading extended are now the best weapons to run in the game. And finally, we head to the Assault class, where most of you are worried about one weapon and one weapon only, and that is the Hellriegel. Well, you'll be relieved to hear that the Hellriegel is more or less fine, but it's certainly not the same as it used to be. The SMGs universally got a bit of a damage buff at certain ranges, but their recoil was increased to balance everything out. So with the Hellriegel, it's not stupid good anymore. Like, not anybody can pick it up and be an absolute monster with it anymore, but it is still, albeit very, very strong. The casual gamer or player that has trouble with aiming will now struggle with this weapon, but the Hellriegel will not feel much different in a skilled player's hands. In fact, I feel that in a weird way, for me, the Hellriegel was actually buffed. I think it performs a lot better in its current state for what it's supposed to do. Instead of how it performed pre-patch. But as I said earlier, for those of you with aiming issues, the Hellriegel will feel worse to you now. The Ribeye roll is now extremely viable, and it's kind of like that versatile weapon. It's what the Hellriegel was in the last patch. And the Ribeye roll is so much better after this update, and I would suggest that you run this as your second go-to assault weapon, because, as it were, I think the weapon hit hardest in this patch, at least in the assault class, is actually the Automatico. Sure, you can still perform well with the Automatico, especially if you are hip firing it, but the weapon feels off now, and with the increase damage at close range, the Hellriegel can now compete with the Automatico at close range and win those gun battles. Not to mention that the MP18 is actually not completely useless now, that I've actually been completely destroyed by a couple of MP18s after this patch. So if you're running the MP18 Trench with that increased hip fire, that also takes a hit to the Automatico. And the Automatico just didn't feel as good to me after playing it with this patch. As for shotguns, you all know how I feel about those. I don't like them, I don't use them, and I think they encourage bad gameplay habits, but the shotguns have had a bit of a complete rework in terms of the pellet spread. The spreads are no longer random, so in that sense, it'll get rid of some of those incredibly BS long-range Model 10 Hunter kills that have the random spread, and it'll make things a little bit more consistent. So, but that actually counts as a buff to the shotguns. And overall, they are better after the patch. I think the Model 1900 is quite good, and of course, the Model 10 Hunter is still the shotgun of choice because the Battlefield 1 gods hate us. In conclusion, though, I think that the meta class is now entering almost an overpowered range after this patch, if it could ever be considered overpowered. The weapons are all now extremely strong, and the con of you needing to be standing still to get this accuracy buff really isn't that much of a weakness to me. The best weapons in the game right now to me by class is the Hellriegel, the Farquhar, and the Bar Storm variant, which is closely followed by the Madsen MG and the Browning, if you can believe it or not. And that wraps up everything with the weapons in this new TTK patch. I hope you all enjoyed the video, as this looks like a scene from World War Z. Like, I got one of my buddies and just hundreds of other players just, like, ran at me. Pretty scary to play live, actually. But back to the point, hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it and subscribe for more awesome content. We will be playing a competitive match against Cure tonight at 10 p.m. So I hope you all come out and support us with that. We are excited to get back on the 6 again and get another W. We are undefeated right now, and we hope to stay that way. So your support is so very much appreciated. Thank you all so much for everything. We are really getting some speed now. Almost at 500. We just hit 400 a little bit ago. So thank you all for all of that. I don't think there's anything else. My name is Nico Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.